Hey folks, David Stewart here. Time for your daily trending, 16th of June, 2020, late at night, of course. Now, before I jump into what's on Twitter, let me say that I've had a couple people mention, yesterday I saw a story that 3 police officers were poisoned in some Shake Shack in Manhattan. And a couple people let me know that it's come out that that is not necessarily the case. No criminal charges have been brought. An investigation didn't find any criminal misconduct, supposedly. And that means that the officers maybe weren't poisoned. We don't really know what's happening. But it goes back to my point that most news is false. And just because I'm reading the news story here and I'm aware of this pattern doesn't mean that the story is automatically true. The reason most news is false is because even if you report the facts as you know them, in the moment that you're reporting them, more facts come out, things get recontextualized. The actual story is more complex than what you initially say or you initially think it is. And once the truth comes out, that makes the initial story false. So it just goes more to my point that most news is in fact false. It could have been a number of things with that story. It could have been completely bunk. It could have been that they didn't clean out the machine. Someone mentioned that in the machine or in the comments that they maybe left the solvent that they were supposed to clean the machine out. They didn't get that solvent completely out, and so it made the milkshakes taste bad or made the whoever was drinking the milkshakes get sick. And I've actually had things like that happen where I've returned milkshakes. I'm like, this doesn't taste right. It tastes like soap or something. And it could be there's a little bit of something in there that just didn't get cleaned out when they were doing maintenance on the machine. That happens in restaurants all the time. You don't get all the soap off the table and soap ends up on something and it fouls up the taste of whatever you're trying to do. So it could be that, or it could just be that it could be something else. We don't really know. So that's the reality of a lot of these news stories. We won't know the facts until later, but we remember the emotions. Like people will remember that cops were poisoned in Manhattan, even if cops were not poisoned in Manhattan. They'll remember that because it's very memorable. Just like in the previous day, a woman involved with Black Lives Matter was found dead, and so then there's this narrative that's pieced together that she was killed. She was murdered by somebody who she was accusing of, sexual assault or something like that. And I'm not seeing that story follow up. I haven't seen any follow-ups on that story, so I don't know the veracity of anything that's there. And chances are by the time all the facts come out, not enough people are paying attention to that story to really remember. They just remember that initial headline, that initial impact, because they're not really paying attention. They're not so excited about that story that they're following up on it every single day. So it just goes back to my point. So anyway, let's hop into what's going on Twitter. We have a hip-hop guy and a comedian, and then World War III. So if you are wondering how shallow Twitter is, we had cancel culture trending yesterday. Today it is a hip-hop guy that I don't know who he is, and a comedian that everyone says isn't funny, and then World War III. So let you know where people's priorities are on the social media sites. I have no idea what's going on. I guess they're trying to cancel J. Cole. They're trying to say that they number one is canceling again, so whatever. Chris D'Elia, everyone's like, I still don't believe he's a comedian. That's the joke, like over and over again. You play a comedian. Okay, sweet, not bad. So I don't know. I guess they're accusing him of being a pedophile or something. Wow, he really does. He does have a maniacal look in that picture. And other people saying, we don't believe he's a comedian. So I don't know here. World War III. So let me tell you what's going on with this. There's a border skirmish between China and India, which do share a border. And there's been disputed territory in that fact for quite a while now. Now, all the tweets aren't even related to that story. They're just people reacting and having hot takes and shit posting about it on Twitter. Now, here's the thing: is 2 nuclear powers are involved here. But just because 2 nuclear powers are involved doesn't mean that will start off World War III. World War II and World War I, because World War II is really kind of picked up where World War I left off. World War I was began because of a really complex system of alliances and I guess a real willingness on the part of the political elite to go to war. That doesn't necessarily translate into World War III beginning. We don't have those same alliances. We don't have the same thing. We don't have 20-year armistice with such a bad deal that you create turmoil in the Axis powers that bring fascists to power that end up setting off war again. who's allied with China that would then bomb us and cause us to be at war. I don't, I don't necessarily see that happening. The other thing is there's two nuclear powers, so you're kind of in a Mexican standoff. And if you don't know what a Mexican standoff is, it's where both people are pointing a gun at each other and they could both pull the trigger at any time. But obviously neither one of them wants to die, and you have to figure out how to get out of the standoff. Because if you're the first person to put your gun down, the other person's going to kill you. So that's kind of what it's like with nuclear powers, is that you really don't want to use nuclear force because the other person will use their nuclear force, which means you both are going to be catastrophically devastated. So even if you are having a military dispute, and I guess up to 20 people died in this fight, in this border skirmish. If you're having these things like this, is almost like an agreement. Like the rule is we're going to have conventional warfare because neither one of us wants to escalate this to a nuclear level. It's only when you're dealing with a country like North Korea where you're like, they really cultivate this image of insanity on the parts of the leaders, where like Kim Jong-il, when he was alive, lots of people thought he was crazy and he could just push the button. That's very advantageous for North Korea because North Korea is a small country and doesn't have a lot of resources, and it suffers economically in big ways. So anybody that you view as an enemy to North Korea, you want them to think that you're crazy enough to commit suicide at any time, that you really don't care about the continuance of your country, because that is the main leverage that you have. If you can convince someone that you're crazy enough that you don't care if you die, then they're going to treat you differently than if they think you do care about dying. They're going to have a lot more caution with that. But I don't think that's necessarily the case with China and India. We had similar things happen with India and Pakistan. India and Pakistan have been rivals for a long time. There's lots of bad blood over the way India and Pakistan were formed back when India and Pakistan were both gaining their independence from the British Empire and were forming as the states that we know today as India and Pakistan. So I've seen this multiple times. I've seen it with Korea, and just a couple of days ago we had North Korea saying they're going to storm into or maybe they did storm into the demilitarized zone. It's a step past saber rattling. It's like skirmish kind of battles, and it's kind of to test the commitment of your opponent. And I think that might be what's going on here. There's been disputed borders between China and India, if I'm not mistaken, for a very long time, and so it's a serious thing, and it's a big deal. But we won't know exactly what's going on, like I said, for a couple of days. And so people that are freaking out and thinking that it's going to be World War III simply because there are the two most populous countries on Earth are having a border skirmish. Not necessarily, because neither one of those countries are looking to cultivate. Neither one of them, to me, have a suicidal psyche. They don't want to go. They don't want to go nuclear. This is really kind of to test the mettle of the other side, I think. But anyway, I'll pay attention to it over the next couple of days if I can. And then we're back to entertainment. Mr. Iglesias, pick me. Let's see here. Watch this on Hulu. Roblox down. The Roblox website is down. This is a photoshopped image, but it's pretty funny. It's been seized. The domain's been seized. Now, I think it was brought down. There's been a bunch of DDoS attacks, the distributed denial of service attacks on a bunch of different websites and services last day or two, and I think that is part of that. GOP cowards try to demoralize the GOP. People in the GOP should be using this because the GOP doesn't have the political will to act against its opponents. UNLV, okay, so what are they doing? They're ripping out the statue right now. They're getting rid of the old Reb statue. This is not a racist mascot. This is a big white dude with a giant mustache. He's like Yosemite Sam, right? The UNLV Rebels. And if I'm thinking of Las Vegas and a mascot for the city of Las Vegas, Rebels definitely works well. But I guess this reminds people of the Confederacy, who were rebels. The thing is, the United States were rebels too, right? We were rebels when we rebelled against the British Empire. So rebel clearly shouldn't be that bad a thing. But in this whole sweeping of the wokeness. It's like, we got to get rid of this. We got to get rid of this statue because he clearly represents someone in the Confederacy with his giant mustache and cowboy hat. He's a cowboy, guys. He's a cowboy. That's what's up. So UNLV, if you've never been there, it's a nice little campus, and I like it. I didn't go there, but I knew a couple people who went there. I had some friends that went there, and it's cool. So the statue comes down. President Marta Miana announced in a letter to students Tuesday night that the school has removed the Hey Arab statue that was in front of TAM Alumni Center. So dumb. It's a nice statue. It's like this isn't something that you could even remotely really say is racist. It's not like a statue of an Indian or something like that. So that one was pretty funny. I don't know if there's anything else here. If Donald Trump is reelected, oh man, I mean, you're really playing with uncertainty there when you say if. I'm not so sure if you should be using if, but when he is reelected. Fish is trending. Let's go to the Fish concert. Let's hang out for a couple hours while they improvise. People will do drugs. That's the vibe we get from Fish. I don't hate Fish or anything. They're not my favorite band, though. All right. Let's see if there's anything on YouTube. Oh, a Star Wars game. It makes me really sad that EA has the Star Wars license. I just don't trust them to make any good games, I think. But there's going to be a Star Wars Squadrons, but I think it's more multiplayer. But it's kind of cool. I kind of like the idea of this, that they'll maybe go back to having something that's more spaceship combat. We haven't really had a lot of spaceship combat or sim games in quite a while. There just hasn't been a lot of them that have come out, so it might be cool to return to that. Some people having a baby, good for them. I think it's good to have babies. Should celebrate that. I tried drinking 5 venti cold brews. Woo. So scary. Everything wrong with Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, you could definitely make a longer video than 22 minutes to talk about. I watched Sonic the Hedgehog, by the way. If you guys want me to do a video on Sonic the Hedgehog, I guess I could. I watched it with my son. He thought it was kind of funny, but he got bored during it, which I guess is saying something. It's about a fast hedgehog and you're boring a 4-year-old. Okay. I guess that's about it, guys. So thanks so much. I'll talk to you guys later. New book is actually out today. It's called Tyrant's Gala. You can check it out. It's a sequel to City of Silver, so if you haven't read the first one, you should probably start with the first one. First one's only 99 cents on Amazon. It's called City of Silver, and I'll see you guys next time.